like to start off by introducing the first speaker who will do the Immortal memory, Ron McKinnon. Now, it does seem a little unfair. Ron's new to the committee and now he's straight into giving the most significant speech of the night. Ron's a QS. Will not... Okay, I might be slightly outnumbered. I was going to say we'll not hold that against him, but I think I could be outnumbered as an architect. Yeah, I thought so. Ron's a QS and he's worked all around the world. He's been from South Africa to Gibraltar, St. Lucia to the Middle East, but he still managed to have time to be owner and director of Hamilton Academicals, taking them through their meteoric rise. He wrote this, not me. From the bottom of the second division to the Premier League, where they are still now. He's also owned and managed a restaurant in Stirlingshire, which he had for 3 years, which was to fulfill a lifetime dream of his. But then reality set in and he went back to the construction industry. He enjoys cooking, thankfully, football, thankfully, and everything Scottish, especially the Tartan Army. Oh, and he likes good wine, don't we all? So, ladies and gentlemen, lads and lassies, please be upstanding for Ron McKinnon.
Just remember, I'm a volunteer. There will be references to Robbie Burns, obviously, and probably the odd mention of Donald Trump. But it won't be political, obviously. Ladies and gentlemen, the Immortal memory. Some say that this speech should be long-winded enough to remind guests that this isn't the Christmas party, yet not so long as to induce cramping, dry mouth or ringing in the ears. It should also be a rather serious and careful consideration of the life and work of Robert Burns. Immortal memories are known to last for 45 minutes or longer. You'll be glad to hear this one won't. It is difficult to condense his life and work into something lasting less than 10 minutes. There's so much to tell and so much to celebrate. I also appreciate that we do have an international audience this evening, so I would be grateful for the Scots amongst us to translate for our friends who perhaps cannot understand some of the words or sayings. The definition of the word immortal in the dictionary can be defined as never to be forgotten, everlasting, immortal words of or relating to immortality. But probably the most appropriate is one whose fame is enduring. Robert Burns, or Robbie, was born on the 25th of January 1759, 2 miles south of Ayr in Alloway, Scotland. The eldest of 7 children of William Burns, a self-educated tenant farmer from Dunnottar in the Mearns, and his mother Agnes Brown, the daughter of a Kirkoswald tenant farmer. In 1774, at just 15 years old, he writes his first song, Handsome Nell, to his first love, Nellie Kirkpatrick. Robbie only married once at the age of 26 to Jean Armour. The year is 1785. He also becomes a father for the first time. In the same year, the English Channel is crossed in a hot air balloon. This year, we might see another balloon cross the Atlantic. In 1789, he begins work as an excise officer collecting taxes. He has to ride his horse almost 200 miles every week to maintain his farm. This is the same year as Mutiny on the Bounty, and America holds its first general election. We also had the storming of the Bastille and the start of the French Revolution. Unfortunately, Rabbie falls ill with malignant squinancy, which is an abscess of the tonsil. In 1790, he writes the classic Tam O'Shanter, which is published in 1791 in Gross's Antiquities of Scotland. The story of a drunken womanizer who witnesses a hellish vision at Old Alloway Kirk. When Chapman billies leave the street and thrifty neighbours meet, as market days are wearing late, and folk begin to tack the gate, while we sit boozing at the nappy and getting foo and unco happy. We think na the lang Scots miles, the mosses, waters, slaps and stiles that lie between us and our dame, where sits our sulky, sullen dame, gathering her brows like gathering storm, nursing her wrath to keep it warm. In the March of 1790, he is promoted and his salary increases from £50 to £70 per annum, 6 rials per week at the current exchange rates. In 1793, he pens Scots Wahey, rousing lyrics written by Burns to remember the rousing speech given by Robert the Bruce before the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314, when Scotland defeated England to maintain its sovereignty. And this year, the Bank of England introduces the first £5 note, and France declares war on Britain, Holland and Spain. In 1795, Rabbie falls ill with rheumatic fever, and on the 21st of July 1796, aged just 37 years old, Robert Burns dies. His funeral was on the 25th of July, the same day as the birth of his son, Maxwell. In the 7 years from 1784 to 1791, this was his most productive and artistic period. 1784, Green Grow the Rashes O. 1785, Holy Willie's Prayer. And in the same year, the iconic To a Mouse tells the story how Rabbie comes across a mouse while working in the fields. We sleek it curin timorous beastie, oh what a panic's in thy breastie. Thou needn't start a wa sae hasty, wi bickering brattle. I wad be laith to run and chase thee, wi murdering pattle. And not forgetting the world-famous song, Auld Lang Syne. Just a few of the 559 poems and songs that he penned throughout his life. So what was it like for a young Rabbie growing up in the 1700s? Burns grew up in poverty and hardship, and the severe manual labour of the farm left its traces in a premature stoop and a weakened constitution. In these days there was no sanitary system. Diseases were rife, the streets were dustbins, dead bodies lay in open graves, drunkenness was rife, and death through drunken fights was common. On a brighter note, however, beer was drunk with every meal, as it was regarded purer than water. Highland whisky was distilled from barley, and elsewhere there was a move to drinking gin, as it was cheap. Rabbie had little regular schooling and got much of his education from his father, who taught his children to read and write. After a few years of home education, Burns was sent to Dalrymple Parish School during the summer of 1772, before returning to Harvest full-time farmer labouring until 1773. He was then sent to a lodge with a man called Murdoch for 3 weeks to study grammar, French and Latin. Robert Burns was initiated into the Masonic Lodge St David Tarbolton on the 4th of July 1781 when he was 22. During the summer of 1784, Burns came to know a group of girls known collectively as the Bells of Mauchline. Obviously you know them as well. One of whom was Jean Armour, the daughter of a stonemason. His first child, Elizabeth Peyton Burns, was born to his mother servant, Elizabeth Peyton, while he was embarking on a relationship with Jean Armour. Jean became pregnant with twins in 1786. In his lifetime, he had 13 children with 5 different women. It's not bad going, actually. He worked as a farmer, a bookkeeper, a labourer, and a flax dresser. In 1791, he met and befriended Captain Richard Brown, who encouraged him to become a poet. So in 1796, he borrowed a pony, set out for Edinburgh to pursue his dream. 1 year later, he sold his copyright to the first edition of his poems for the sum of 100 guineas. The rest, as they say, is history. So what is the legacy of Robert Burns and his work? Burns used words to express emotion just as modern-day Scots do. The Scots nation, by nature, are non-confrontational. That was actually meant to be serious. They prefer to use words and humour to express emotion. You're probably well aware of the recent protests surrounding Donald Trump. Scotland was no different from many countries around the world. The Scots protested with their usual wit and irony, just as Rabbie would have done if he was alive today. These are actual placards seen this week in Scotland during the protests. No matter your political slant, you have to appreciate humour. The topical one. Trump's heart is colder than Scotland. The academic one. You know it's bad when it's protested in St Andrews. The historical one. Your ma was an immigrant, you absolute roaster. The multicultural one. Chapati tea or hijabam. And for those of you familiar with the popular Scottish comedy programme Tune the Fat, Oi Trump, gonna no do that. Every year, we celebrate his life and works at a Burns supper, just as we're doing this evening. The first Burns supper, known as the Mother Club, was founded in Greenock in 1801 by a group of merchants in Ayrshire. Its objectives were to cherish the name of Robert Burns, to foster a love of his writings, and generally to encourage an interest in the Scottish language and literature. In 2009, Scottish television ran a public vote on who was the greatest Scot of all time. Robert Burns narrowly won, beating Braveheart William Wallace into second place. That's not the Mel Gibson Braveheart, by the way. Celtic manager Jock Stein was 4th, Robert the Bruce was 6th, and Billy Connolly was 9th. Sir Andy Murray didn't even make the shortlist, despite winning the Qatar Open tennis this year. There is even a crater on the planet Mercury which is named after Burns. The Guinness Book of Records named Auld Lang Syne as one of the top 3 most popular songs in the English language, along with Happy Birthday and For He's a Jolly Good Fellow. You can now get a Robert Burns app, and more bizarrely, designer Tommy Hilfiger claims to be a direct descendant of Robert Burns. From Bridgeton to Beijing, from Perth, Scotland to Perth, Australia, his life and work is celebrated. Other than Queen Victoria and Christopher Columbus, Burns has more statues dedicated to him around the world than any other non-religious figure. His fans include Abraham Lincoln, Bob Dylan, and even Michael Jackson. His works have been translated into over 30 languages, and his legacy will continue to be celebrated in the centuries to come. Ladies and gentlemen, I would ask that you charge your glasses, stand and join me in a toast to the immortal memory that is Robert Burns. Robert Burns. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. I trust all those figures were not made up in a load of pish. I'm going to go out and get my McTommy Hilfiger kilt. No, brilliant, Ron, thanks very much. Great insight into the life and times of Burns and some statistics about it.